Good afternoon. On behalf of Paraclete Press, welcome to this Paraclete Music Talkback with Jim Jordan. My name is Rachel McKendry and I'm the publicist here at Paraclete. We're thrilled to have you with us today. Throughout the talkback, I really encourage you to ask questions. Please take a minute to locate the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. And please feel free to submit any questions you might have for Jim right in the middle of the piece, whenever you like, and we'll try to get to everyone. I'll be posting links in the chat bar too that you can access to purchase all the music that's featured today too. A heads up that there's a special coupon code, MUSIC2020, for 20% off multiple copy orders of all the pieces featured here today. I know you'll want to take advantage of that, and we hope you do. And a recording of this talkback will be available later on YouTube for your reference and for anyone who couldn't make it. Now I'd like to introduce Jim Jordan. Jim is the music editor and Gregorian chant specialist for Paraclete Press. He is an organist at the Church of the Transfiguration in Orleans, Massachusetts, and he is a lover of all things Star Trek. Thank you again, Jim.
Thanks a lot, Rachel. And actually today I did remember to bring my Star Trek mug.
Awesome.
So I could actually prove to people that I do have more than just a passing love of Star Trek. Anyway, all that to say, thank you all for being with us today. This is our 8th webinar that we have done during this very unusual period of time when we've been quarantined and home and wondering where things are going to be going next. So today is actually going to be focused in on organ music. And all the organ music that we're going to do today is taken from reading sessions that I have done over the past few years for various chapters of the American Guild of Organists right here within the state of Massachusetts. So when Rachel says, make sure to send your questions in, go right ahead and do that, because the video some will run continuously, some I will interrupt, but I will certainly be, I will absolutely be answering questions as we go so that there's no chance that your question gets missed. Anyway, we're going to start off with a wonderful setting of variations on Stuttgart. Now, this actually comes, I'm going to grab the score and hold it up for you, right here by Robert Powell. And you're going to see this in the video. Wonderful set of works from manuals only, varying degrees of difficulty, and largely, though, very, very easy, very readable. They lie well under the hands. And this setting, you know, for Come Thou Long Expected Jesus, I think is quite enjoyable, quite colorful. He doesn't actually give any instructions in terms of the registration, so you really are left to your imagination and the colors of the organ. But let's take a listen to this by Robert Lind, Variations on Stuttgart, from Organ Works for the Church Year. 16-foot in the manual. A gentleman asked me a couple of weeks ago, does it work with 16? I think quite beautifully, and here it would be a nice way to close using that in the manual's no pedal. And certainly that will work well even to introduce the hymn when you are going to use it in a service. So again, that's the variations on Stuttgart. This comes from Organ Works for the Church Year, Manuals Only, of Robert Lau. The next thing I'd like to play for you are two different works by a collection that has long been a bestseller from Paraclete Press called 5 Advent Preludes of Robert Powell. I never intended this, but every composer I'm playing for you today's first name is Robert. Oh well, so I'll try not to get these confused. Anyway, these are 5 Advent Preludes of Robert Powell. Again, these work as marvelous introductions to the hymn. I simply find them quite attractive. They're well thought out in terms of their counterpoint. There are some registration suggestions here, but again, entirely open to how it works on the instrument. So the first one, actually I'm playing for Advent Lessons and Carols myself this weekend at both of these works. Jesus Comes with Clouds Ascending. Just a nice straightforward setting. The next piece, follows on the next page in the collection, is a setting of Comfort Ye, Comfort, Comfort Ye My People. This is a little bit more extended type of treatment in a chorale prelude form, but nonetheless will work quite well to introduce the hymn. So, and again, these don't take a great deal of time to actually set up, but they do take a couple of moments. And again, this is Comfort, Comfort Ye My People, arranged by Powell. So you can hear from that and see very, very well. I'm not going to say it's the easiest piece to play because you got to practice some of those things, but it's certainly quite lovely. Uses the organ quite beautifully. The next work is a set of variations by Robert Lau, a set of variations on Sleeper's Wake. And I've actually asked Dan to not put up the PDF for this particular work, largely because I really would like for you to focus on listening to this. The color variation, the style variation is just, it's marvelous. It really treats each verse of the hymn very differently. There's a slow trio back here, variation 3, that I think is just to die for in terms of the colors of the harmonies. But then the final variation, which is a rather bright little dance, I know I've had a few people over the years say, well, is that hard to play? Actually, no. One thing about this set of variations is it's very, very idiomatic. It fits on the hands, it fits in the hands, it fits with the feet. And once you have it in your hands, I mean, I get this out now every year and play this, and people just eat it up. So this is Sleeper's Wake. Grab your coffee if you don't have it, and really do take the time just to focus on listening to this as we see the video come up. So with that, we wish you a blessed Advent. Now, of course, we're not wishing you a blessed Advent just yet today, but of course, this was taken from an Advent reading session. But you can see that last variation. It's just a hoot to play. There's so much fun. In fact, all of these variations are the way they bring out the colors. If you have time to just play around with the orchestration, both Bob Powell, Robert Lau give you lots of latitude. I've been getting questions while we've been going, which is great, about tempos and so forth, and whether or not these folks are open to experimentation, and they certainly are, because they're fabulous musicians, and they realize that different instruments are going to have different ways of doing something. Also, the room. You know, we all know as organists that every time we walk in, we don't care if it says 8-foot flute or 8-foot diapason. You don't know what that means until you hear it in context of the organ and of the room itself. We're going to jump now to a couple more pieces by Robert Powell. These are two works taken from his set called Harvest Festival. We've actually got another set of pieces, and we'll do those another time around, by a man by the name of Norberto Guinaldo, also for Thanksgiving. I was glad to see these come through a number of years ago, because sometimes the Thanksgiving sets kind of get lost with Advent and Christmas. And these are really, really useful for both concert work, if you want to put some just hymn settings in, but Thanksgiving Sunday in particular. And these are on a different instrument that are, again, with another different AGO chapter, but you'll hear now, Come Ye Thankful People Come is the first piece, and then God Who Stretched the Spangled Heavens.
What I'm going to play for you next is actually one movement, as it were, out of a series entitled...
We're just having a little technical work there. As I said to Dan earlier, I've kind of thrown the kitchen sink at him today. We should have a different video pop up there if we've got that. And we can always jump to the other one, Dan, if you want to, and we can do that. We can do that piece. We can go in a different order. Ah, here we go. It's not often that we get a piece that actually directly calls for chimes, but that one did, and that had a lovely set of chimes for that particular reading session on that organ, so I just couldn't resist putting that up. The next thing we're going to do is a set of variations on St. Columba, or the King of Love, My Shepherd Is. Before we listen to these, I wanted to talk about them for just a little bit, because not only are they a beautiful set of variations, they work well for teaching. Not that the others don't, but I have found that these are particularly nice because they're very, very tethered to the hymn tune in a way that where you can basically teach all kinds of marvelous things about improvisation, even with adding of passing tones, how you do that with neighbor tones, little rhythmic devices, because that's exactly what Bruce does as he goes through this, where he just changes things a little bit or have a running scale. So you can actually teach elements of composition through this, because it's really, really quite clear how he goes through the variations. Meanwhile, they're lovely to play, and they're good for a Good Shepherd Sunday or whenever you might have this hymn. So this is Variations on St. Columba by Bruce Campbell. Part of the reason I think that's such a good teaching set of variations is that canon in the next to the last variation always winds up being slightly trickier to the student than they might have anticipated. And it's a nice way to teach canonic writing because, again, they've got a tune in their ear that's very familiar, so they can instantly hear an error when their hands or their feet want to go south off of that. And we all know what it's like when you are forcing yourself to learn how to deal with canonic playing. Next, we're going to do a piece by Raymond Weidner, who we heard a couple of his choral works a few weeks ago. This is out of a set called 7 Liturgical Preludes. And like Robert Powell's 5 Advent Preludes, this has been a bestseller for a long time. What I'm going to play for you now is the first one of the set on Conditor Alme Siderum, creator of the Stars of Night, lovely setting of this chant. Every piece in that collection is equally lovely, and he just has such a marvelous take on each piece. I can't recommend the collection highly enough. The last 2 works we're going to hear will be on a video that I'm going to let run now continuously, and that is first from a collection called Preludes for a Prayer by Zvonimir Nagy. The one I'm going to play, the one you'll hear today, is the 5th one of the collection, subtitled On White, Hommage to Ligeti. And you'll see when you see the PDF why, because it's all written in white note notation. But again, marvelous. These are for different types of prayer. They're not all this style. Thought this one would be lovely. And then we'll conclude with a work of Robert Lau, Paean, or Hymn of Praise, and then we'll chat for a minute again after that. So this is Preludes for a Prayer of Zvonimir Nagy, and then Paean, or Hymn of Praise, by Robert Lau.
What I'm going to play for you next is actually prayer, or who you can see here at all on the page. All you have 6 going to do. The last piece I'd actually like to play for you is Paean, or Hymn of Praise, by Robert Lau. This actually will be good for any kind of postlude or wedding. This would be super even as part of the prelude, the postlude. It's not a march, but it will work well as a procession. Marvelous fanfare setting, but also in the great tradition of people like Walton and the Crown Imperial, Elgar, the Pomp and Circumstance marches. You get this marvelous quiet middle section and a rebuild to the end. Quite an exciting piece, not difficult to play. Paean, Hymn of Praise by Robert Lau.
So you can see right off how well that would work in so many different settings, and when they can easily program that on a recital, show off any kind of numbers of trumpets you might have on the organ. I wanted to take just a minute because today is the closing webinar of this first series of 8 programs. We're going to be taking a few weeks now and looking and retooling as people are headed back to work and out of the house a little bit. We may be changing times and doing a little bit different type of programming, always bringing you this type of music, but in some different fashions. But first, I wanted to show you the pictures of the people that you've met over these past 8 weeks. I think Dan may have their photos available for us. Here we go. Here's Robert Lau, who was on with us the first week. And then June Nixon, we talked with her from Australia. And then we're followed by David Halls from Salisbury Cathedral. Then, of course, we've been joined by Bonnie Duckworth and Ray Weidner. Tim Hagee, who, of course, did that marvelous setting of the prayer of Eleanor Roosevelt. And then, though we've not talked with him, Robert Powell, who you've heard so very, very much of his music. And over the course of these 8 weeks, I did a little count up for you. We've actually covered 67 choral works and 15 organ titles. Not just pieces, because some of those are variations and sets. So there's a lot of material there for you to go back and review. Your follow-up email will have links to where you can get to any of those 8, and you can actually see any and all of the scores. I know I have a couple of people asking about that today, and those scores are available for you to see on our website, and that'll be, the links will take you directly there. Anyway, thank you again, and we look forward to having you with us again when we restart the next series of the webinars. Do take advantage of all these discounts that are still up online. And don't wait until a webinar to let me hear from you, let Rachel hear from you. If there's anything we can do to help you with music that's coming up for your church, whatever you might be doing for the summer or headed into the fall, let us know. Thanks again.
Thank you so much, Jim. Thank you to all of you who have joined us today and over the past 8 weeks. It's been such a joy to meet with you all like this, and who knew that COVID would provide such a great opportunity to get together. So like Jim said, please keep an eye on your email and on the Paraclete Sheet Music website for what's coming up next. In that email, there, again, like Jim said, there will be links to the recording of today's talkback, links to all the previous talkbacks, and links to all the music that's been featured. A reminder that if you use the coupon code MUSIC2020 on multiple copy orders of any of these pieces, you'll get 20% off. And coupon code ORGAN25 will get you 25% off all organ music. No minimum purchase required. So again, please take advantage of this special. Get your copies now. We hope you've enjoyed these times together as much as we have. Our prayers are with all of you for health and safety. God bless, and please stay tuned for what's coming next. Have a great afternoon.